Well, EU citizenship, I think, has developed largely for the mobile citizens within the EU. So it's obviously nationals of EU member states, to protect those who are mobile. And by mobile, I don't mean just coming in and out of tourists, but those who've gone to another state to live there for a while or whatever. And it's that group of people who is a significant part of the EU, one has to say, and an important and valuable part that EU citizenship has to protect by giving a series of rights. Now, the challenge for EU citizenship, and this is why I've written a little bit about it, is you have to think about how that relates to national citizenship. It's not as simple as simply saying, oh, well, we have to create this new EU citizenship and it has to be the same as national citizenship and we think it has no effect on national citizenship. Clearly it does, firstly, so you have to think about the relationship. And it's also not quite the same thing, in my view. There is potential for conflict. They can complement each other in a number of ways. I mean, let me just talk first of all about the complementarities, because there's a danger of giving only one side of the story first of all. What is very valuable about EU citizenship is it creates protection for those who are mobile or have moved elsewhere, and says to them, you can have a home and a sense of belonging in the place that you moved to, and a series of entitlements. And that I think is very, very valuable, and that complements and enlarges national citizenship to the sense that we'd say everyone should have that. Now, where the conflict comes in is, of course, that when we're talking particularly about social rights or political rights, they're not a free good, unless you want infinite amount of taxes and infinite amount of borrowing. That if you give these rights to the mobile, you're privileging them over. I don't say privileging them, but you're giving them opportunities that the immobile don't have. So let me just give you two brief examples. A lot is made, and I think very unfairly and very racist manner, of Romanian citizens who come here, and to my impression, are fantastic, can contribute to the UK in a fantastic way. But if we were thinking about our commitment to Romanians as fellow citizens, the poorest Romanians are not the ones that come to the UK. They're the ones back in Romania. And what is happening, of course, if you think about it, is that there's capital flight from Romania. You have a remittance culture. And that's not, if you were really thinking about what we owe Romanians, it's not clear we're offering the most vulnerable Romanians the best commitments. Now, turning it around, many British people go to Portugal when they retire or what have you. Now, Portugal currently has a bit of a crisis in its health service. There are long waiting times. It's not clear to me, as we get older, I can say this to you, someone who's a bit older, you start to cost more on the National Health Service. It's not clear to me that, the Portuguese can't have a tough time as it is, that the Portuguese paying in significant way for British pensioners doesn't create tensions. There are issues about who should pay for that. I think those issues can be managed, just as we can talk about, issues of social housing. The UK clearly doesn't have enough social housing, and this creates tensions when large numbers of people suddenly regenerate an area, as has happened, or school places. And the question is how you manage those tensions. You don't say, that's the end, there's a conflict, so we can't do anything about this. I personally think that EU citizens who come to the UK, for the first 2 years, their taxes, their income tax, should go back to their state of nationality. If you think about a Hungarian doctor, Budapest doesn't have many doctors now. Well, it's lost a lot of doctors, I'm sure, because they've gone to work for better salaries, largely in the East Midlands. I don't feel good as a British citizen that Hungary, which is a much poorer state, has trained that doctor for my benefit. The least that could happen is that he or she is benefiting from a salary that they just couldn't dream of. Well, they could dream about it, but they wouldn't get it in Budapest. Could pay their taxes back for the first couple of years to Hungary. And I said, in line with that, I think the first couple of years, what social benefits you offer to EU citizens, you should think carefully about. In the sense, I think citizenship's not about human rights. It's about saying you're special. And you don't say someone's special just because they get off a plane. It's because they're saying you're special because you've. And I think it has to be turned around. If someone's been a couple of years, they'll have friendships. They'll have given so much to any host society. You say you deserve this because we really like what you offer to us. And I don't think most EU citizens would be unhappy with that. And the reason I can say that is that 600,000 Poles came to the UK between 2000 and 2002 and 2006, and there was almost no social benefits were given to them. I think there were 8 claims during that time. And this is what most people don't realise. And no, you didn't hear any Poles saying, "Oh, well, I can't do that." People who migrate are incredibly resourceful people, and they're not looking for handouts. The problem is they're too successful for host society, so people get jealous of them, in my view. And so that's how I would manage the tensions. I do not believe EU citizenship will supersede national citizenship, and I don't believe it's desirable. At the moment, about 9% of EU citizens either feel exclusively European or more European than national. So for EU citizenship to supersede national citizenship, that would have to change. There has to be that sense of effect, that people feel more European than national. And why that's important is that only if you have people feeling really committed, because we have high taxes, people might have strong views about whether they want a decent military or not, but you need that commitment for a sense of sacrifice. And I personally like having a welfare state. And if you think about it, here in the UK, we pay about 40% of our money in taxes, which goes to strangers. You and I don't know 99.99999% of the 60 million British citizens. And you do that because you feel there's a sort of British social contract. Now, if there isn't a European social contract, you have to think, oh, well, it might be very nice, but it'd be pretty neoliberal, in my view.